Welcome to part 9 of the series Ears to the Ground, organized by the Corn and Soil Health Project at the University of Illinois. In this episode, we have two speakers that will discuss about food-grade corn and the process of nixtamalization, which is the process used to make masa. Marco Tok is a grad student in the Department of Food Science and Human Nutrition at the University of Illinois, and Armando Sandoval is the owner of Maize Mexican Grill in Champaign, Illinois.
Nixtamalization is an ancient process developed by Mayan and Aztec civilization in Mexico and Central America. Maize have several nutritional limitations, especially the quantity and quality of its essential amino acid and niacin. In this case, nixtamalization is one of these techniques that improve the quality of maize in different ways. First, lime cooking increased around 750% the calcium content in tortilla. It released bound niacin from the kernel and reduced 35% the content of phytic acid. Second, nixtamalization also improved the flavors and texture of the masa. And third, studies have shown that nixtamalization significantly reduced the amount of mycotoxins that are present in maize. Nixtamalization, however, has some disadvantage. For instance, it can reduce carotenoid content from the maize and it can create an undesirable color change in the masa.
I grew up around corn, so when we were going to open a restaurant, my wife, she said, this used to be a cornfield community. You grew up on a cornfield community. Why not call it maize? Everything that we do is corn, and we do a lot of handmade tortillas and stuff, so we wanted to emphasize the fact that it's corn. We mainly use white corn. We're trying to move forward with being able to use certified organic, but for now we're getting our supplies, they come from Chicago, and what we look for is white corn. The white corn is the one that I'm most familiar where I grew up. So when I see something different, then it just doesn't feel less traditional to me. Although, like in Mexico City, if you were to get a tortillas from any place, it's basically yellow corn. Very simple process. What we do is just add water and add a certain amount of lime, depending on how much corn we're using. And you just let it cook and boil. And so it depends, like for example, a small batch that we did, it took us 30 minutes. And you're looking for when you're able to sort of peel the corn, that's when it's ready. Then you gotta let it cool completely in order to grind it and hence produce the masa. When we do the masa for the tortillas, it's gotta be smooth. So it's gotta be like, it can't be grainy, just because the way that tortillas are made. If it's not smooth, then they break down when you're doing them. Now, when you're doing tortilla for chips, you want it a little bit more grainy, so they're more sturdy. So when you cut them, when you fry them, it's a better use for them.
Consumers are increasingly inclined to purchase blue corn or purple corn because it has an attractive color, contains 20% more protein, and has higher antioxidant content than their white corn alternatives. Based on that, I think we will see colorful tortillas or tortilla chips made with new corn varieties in market.
The blue corn, that's another corn that I grew up with, and that was like sort of for us it was a delicacy, because in order to survive in a farm, you had to plant the majority of white corn, because that's the one that was that you're able to sell. And then different families would do a small batch of like blue corn or red corn or things like that. The blue corn, it just has a very different flavors. It's a little bit I don't know how to describe it. Sturdy, just the masa, the way the masa comes out, it's a little. You can do a little bit more with it, and it's kind of funny because when you see it, it's blue corn, but then when you cook it, and since you add the lime, it changes to green, and then when you cook it on the grill, it changes color again. So it's to sort of like a deep purple. So it is called blue corn, but it does vary. And like with what we've done in the past, where we cook different types of corn, it's really fun seeing the effect that the lime and the nixtamalization process has on the corn. intrigued to see another version of corn. For us, we never planned that. I mean, when we started the restaurant, we never thought that there were so many people that are gluten intolerant. So our menu, for example, we only have 2 items that are that have gluten. So when people come and they ask us, which of your products are gluten free, we basically say is the whole menu. And when we say the whole menu and just exclude 2 items, for them it's just like out of nowhere, because the majority of the menus, they have a pretty small selection of gluten free. And then adding the blue corn, that's another variety. I think it's even better. And from what I see, the demand for gluten free and corn products, especially organic corn products, which I think that's where it's moving to. It just keeps on climbing, and people are more interested in what type of corn we use, where we get it from, and just seeing the varieties of them. I think it keeps them more interested.